Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Excited to be here, the 10th anniversary. So I'm going to be talking about something very, very excited about, which is the PAPSS African Currency Marketplace. Once again, I'm Ernest Mbenkum, the founder of the Bantu Blockchain Foundation, which is the first Africa-led blockchain infrastructure for the world, and also the founder and CEO of Interstellar, which is Africa's leading enterprise blockchain infrastructure company. We work with central banks, regulators, commercial banks, and entities across Africa to basically help them transition to the blockchain space. We've been in the blockchain space for about 15 years, the early days of Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. But we focused ourselves on the real-world applications and financial services, and for this particular presentation on addressing a major issue which has to do with cross-border payments in Africa. Some of you probably heard about the Pan-African Payment Settlement System that was launched 2 years ago. However, they requested that we come and assist leveraging blockchain technology to address a critical issue affecting major corporates with billions of dollars in local currencies trapped. So with that, I'll proceed. So what is the problem? We have major foreign currency or hard currency shortages in Africa. Over 70% of African economies have this issue, and it causes a lot of problems. There are fragmented payment systems. We have many different payment systems, and there's a major interoperability issue. Now, then we have various industry problems. Just the airline industry alone has over $2 billion in local currencies trapped, and it causes all kinds of problems. Some people couldn't fly here today because the cost of the tickets were simply outrageous. We have some of the highest costs in flying, and that's just one industry. And then you have the high remittance costs, with all the flows that come into the continent, and which accounts for almost 5.2% of Africa's GDP. Now, what are some of these problems? You look at the airline industry, Kenya Airways, Ethiopian Airlines, they have revenue trapped across the continent. You look at MTN Group, ShopRite, these are multinational Pan-African companies that are unable to repatriate their funds for investment and all of that. You have Dangote Group, which again is struggling to repatriate funds which are needed for reinvestment. These are some examples. You see Kenya Airways has about 1.5 billion trapped in Ethiopia. You have South African Airways with about 50 million trapped in Zimbabwe, and the list goes on and on. So what is the solution? So jointly developed by the Pan-African Payment Settlement System and Interstellar, and as you may know, PAPSS is supported and backed by Afri-Exim Bank, Africa Import-Export Bank, and we've partnered to build this new infrastructure to address this issue. And this is going to be increasing intra-Africa trade, which has been held back below 18% for decades. And it's going to be increasing liquidity across the continent and supporting African businesses to reduce all the various challenges they've been facing so far. So how does it work? In a very simple form. For example, in this case, Dangote Cement has Kenyan shillings trapped in Kenya. Kenya Airways has Naira trapped in Nigeria. They deposit the funds into our platform, and then the funds appear into, basically they are transitioned into the blockchain space using African currency-based stablecoins. And then the Dangote team goes into the marketplace, creates their offers. Once they are matched, then the currencies are swapped, and then they can withdraw the currencies back to their various accounts. Now, what you don't see here is a lot of intelligence and unique technology. So, for example, we have an automated order matching engine. You can feed your own prices, get them out. Then all of this is happening with regulatory guidelines from central banks and local regulators in each market. We have other intelligent systems in place, like if there is no direct currency swap, say between the Kenyan shilling and the naira, we do what we call pathfinding. So it can go from the Kenyan shilling to the rand, to the Ghana cedi, to the CFA, and then to the other currency. So it finds the path intelligently because it's an order matching engine built into the blockchain that we're using, which is the Bantu blockchain. So what has been the success? So we've been developing this for slightly over a year, and we went into pilot in August this year using a few selected corporates, liquidity providers, and commercial banks. And we started with Ghana, Kenya, and Nigeria. So the first 2 months, we've done over $5 million. And some of the key ones that I can disclose today, because I was only cleared 24 hours ago to talk about this. Kenya Airways, we've moved successfully funds that were trapped in Ghana and Nigeria, roughly over $5 million. We've had support of liquidity providers like One Liquidity, Sika Box, that have ensured that when the orders don't match, they can provide the sufficient liquidity to make sure it goes through smoothly. We've also had amazing banks like UBA, Kenya, Ghana Commercial Bank, Access Bank, and other African banks that have been successfully supporting us with this. And this pilot that we are in right now successfully navigated through the complexities of central banks and local regulators in each market. And they supported us and continue to provide guidance to make sure that this project moves forward. So what's the impact for African corporates? Well, now there's more liquidity, which allows them to streamline their flows and ensure that they can transact rapidly and easily. There's more operational efficiency. There's more certainty. We have direct currency swaps. We're not using any hard currencies, no dollars, no euros on this platform, and allows them to service their debts pretty fast. The transactions are faster because we are leveraging blockchain and stable coins, which are Africa backed. What's the impact for Africa as a continent? It's projected to increase intra-Africa trade for the first time to over 50%. And this is significant. We trade more with Europe and Asia than with African countries. And there is no more dependency on hard currency. Anybody traveling across Africa knows the first thing you do is look for dollars or euros before you get on the plane. And it cannot continue. For businesses, they are stuck, they are trapped, it's frustrating. And the blockchain and the stablecoin framework has also allowed us to reduce volatility and uncertainty. And by lowering these fees, it basically preserves more of our African GDP, because you keep losing money, taking all sorts of hedging strategies to protect your corporate. Now, who are those who've made this possible? So the first one is PAPSS, Afri-Exim Bank. And what PAPSS does is to ensure that we have the strategic support from the commercial banks, from the central banks across the continent, and also with all the regulators. It is not easy, as most of you know, but they've successfully navigated through this. They've given us the vision and also the guidance. And then also bringing together all the different banking partners, commercial banks, and liquidity providers. With us at Interstellar, so again, we are Africa's leading blockchain infrastructure company, and we are focusing on this financial infrastructure transition across the continent. And we built something called Stargate, one of our toolkits, for those of you who are familiar with sci-fi movies. So Africa has so many different payment systems. They don't talk to each other. So we built Stargate because payment systems are like stars. So to move between them rapidly, we built this infrastructure that allows each jurisdiction, each market to continue to leverage its own local solution, but the Stargate allows them to move instantly between each other and do this. And also, the infrastructure also supports tokenization of real-world assets and many other use cases. But for this particular case, we focused on the cross-border challenge. So we are supported by the African Union. This is critical. to unifying the continent and allowing us, and so again, I'm being allowed to say this for the first time, this current project is backed and supported by the African Union. We are supported by the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, again, to increase intra-Africa trade and reduce dependency on hard currencies. And again, supporting the $3.4 trillion African economy and make it bigger. Then we have, without them, the gateway banks, liquidity providers. These are some of them. One Liquidity, SICA, UBA, GCB, CCA Bank, Cameroon, the other banks in Congo, Access Bank, and the rest. So those in the crypto space are familiar with what we call on-off ramping. Very difficult to get those partnerships. In our case, these banks serve as the gateway banks in each country, and we are adding more banks. PAPSS has about 147 commercial banks across Africa. We are onboarding them one by one. And then, obviously, the role of stable coins and blockchains. I don't need to beat about the bush. You've heard about what blockchain can do for us. But we are leveraging African-backed stable coins to address this issue, reducing the transaction cost significantly, and obviously the security and the transparency. So what's next? We're going to be expanding into more countries. So though we started with 3 countries, we've now penetrated 9 countries. We have started trading and swapping in just 4, but the other 5 countries are coming on board. By the end of the year, we are looking at about 17. Just a week and a half ago, we moved 2.5 billion CFA from Cameroon to Kenya, one of the corporates, and the Pan-African Payment Settlement System, PAPSS, is essentially ensuring that we meet with all the regulators and continue to scale. And then we at Interstellar continue to lead on the technical development and innovation and working with other partners to ensure that this platform is stable and continues to work. And this is a quote from the first transaction we did in August. It was a lady CEO in Accra moving some money to Nigeria. And she said, "I'm humbled and truly appreciative that this is what we dreamed of for Africa. At least that dollar demand is off the table. $100,000 less pressure on the Ghana cedi. Way to go for Africa." In conclusion, we are here to work with everybody. We're not competing. We're here to collaborate. And if you are a bank, a liquidity provider, a fintech that would like to take advantage of this platform, talk to us, reach out to us, and let's work together. Thank you very much.